Happy Labor Day, this 1st of September. Today we're going to talk about a real tough subject, child pornography.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope, open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Welcome. If you're listening to this live, this is Labor Day 2015. If you're listening to this on a podcast, we thank you for taking the time to come and listen to this podcast or watch it, as it may be. If you are listening, there is a visual component to this webcast. It is it's not TV. We don't call it TV. I guess you could call it TV. We do everything that any other television station ever does. We have live video things underneath the screen that tell you what our name is, and movies and clips and just everything. But we call it Passionate Radio with pictures. And on this Labor Day, I have a very special guest. His name is Bob. That's not his real name. But today I want you to trust me. There are times when Lila and Bob Montserrat and I come to you and say that we have somebody who wants to share their story, but there's family members that need to be protected. There are friends that need to be protected. And so they ask if they can have anonymity. And I say, of course, because we know the story's true, and you're just going to have to trust me on that. And if you are watching, there will be no visual image of Bob, but his story will play out in your mind, and you'll know it's true. Bob, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having the guts. You know, I mean, you're going to help somebody today.
It's a cathartic effort.
Yeah, we call them nows, nuggets of wisdom. That somehow there's a nugget of wisdom inside you that God wants Lila to hear, Bob to hear, me to hear, or one of a million podcast listeners. And God uses us to share those messages, and that's what you're doing today.
I appreciate it. I think I was surrounded by a bunch of angels while I went through my process.
Yeah. All right, so let's name it first. What would you call who you were 20 years ago?
Well, if I go back a long time, I would call myself a closeted gay individual.
Okay.
Who grew up in a very conservative community. I had a need for perfection, and because our family was Catholic, things like being gay weren't discussed. So when I saw my first pornography, it was heterosexual, and over time I realized it wasn't the girls I was interested, it was the guys. But I kept that secret to myself. I went through probably 4 different heterosexual relationships trying to be quote-unquote normal, and the last one ended very poorly at her therapist. We drove in her car, and basically I was likened to being a carp that could be thrown back in the sea, and she could go with somebody else. And I wasn't being honest with myself, and I wasn't being honest with her, because I was trying to be something that I wasn't. And what I did after that point is I decided that I wasn't going to do that to another lady. I wasn't going to be in a relationship that was false, but I couldn't bring myself to join the quote-unquote gay lifestyle. So I got into a long, intimate, so I thought, relationship with pornography. It started with, magazines, the VHS, the DVDs, and eventually I wound up on the internet. And I joined a site that was a child pornography site. And it's one of those things that I was so much in denial of my homosexuality that I wasn't concerned about the victims of child pornography.
Bob, let's talk for a second about that woman that you were involved with in a relationship and you were in therapy. What created the need for therapy?
Well, it's interesting. She said that while we were going out, that I would make time for her, but I wasn't committed to her. And she was right, because I was gay and I wasn't committed to her. So we went to her therapist. For the very first time that I ever saw him was our last session. It was a long ride home in the car after we drove in her car, and I didn't realize it was going to be that way. But she said, I feel like you put me in your day timer, but you're really not with me. And I would say that I was even though I was involved in heterosexual sex, I was more interested in the gay pornography that I was watching because that was my true attraction. And I really don't believe for me it was a conscious choice. It just happened. In fact, I probably did everything in my life to remain heterosexual, to be normal, to fit in, and to hide being gay. So that therapy session was an eye-opener for me, not just about what I did to her, which was not honest, but I wasn't honest with myself.
Did it come out in that counseling session that you were gay?
No.
Oh, no.
No, it wouldn't come out for years later.
Okay.
But you weren't, at this time, you weren't really admitting it to yourself, or you were just pushing it away at this point? Or?
I was, I would say that I realized in my late teens that the term back in the day was queer. And so I realized that I was different. And I had crushes on girls in high school, and I had crushes on guys, but I didn't process them sexually. I just didn't. And in my late teens, I realized I got my first pornography magazine. It was a Playboy. Oh, that was neat. And then I got like a Penthouse that had men and women, and I was gravitating more to the men. But again, Catholic household, Catholic upbringing, conservative, grew up in an area that was really conservative, and I just kept it to myself. I actually went to a Jesuit college, Jesuit University, and there weren't groups back then. There was no, I graduated from college in '82, and if there were groups, I wasn't aware of them. Yeah, so I just hid it. Yeah,
because nowadays, the groups are out and published and said, I mean, even in 12-step programs, you can go to a men's LGBT, well, I guess that wouldn't be a men's L. You could go to an LGBT men or women's group, but that wasn't even known back then.
Not to me, it wasn't.
Bob is our guest, and understand we'll get to the story as we move on, but he paid a heavy price for his child pornography. Spent how long in prison?
I was sentenced to 60 months in federal prison, and with good time, I served 52.
You got 8 to spare.
Well, my judge could have sentenced me to 96 months, and he gave me the mandatory minimum, which was 5 years, 60 months.
Because you were so helpful and...
I was cooperative. I mean, honestly, I don't want to blow the story entirely, but let's just say that I was forthcoming at every point somebody was asking for information from me because I was so much in denial of my sexuality. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong. Oh. That's how deep in denial I was.
So as you're getting older and dating women, did you ever date men?
No.
And the denial of your homosexuality didn't come out till after you were in prison?
Well, I'll tell you, the first 2 people I ever told I was gay were 2 INS officers who came to my work and were asking me questions about websites I've been viewing. So I took them to my home. I voluntarily showed them my computer. I gave them my password. They logged on. Then they took my computer, and I was pretty rattled. I mean, the last thing they did before they left is gave me a card in case I felt like I was going to commit suicide. So there was at least care from their concern about my personal safety, and I was okay. And at that point in time, like I said, I was in denial of my sexuality, and didn't ever cross me that, well, you're going to be found on child pornography charges. As a matter of fact, about 2 weeks into this, after they confiscated, did the search and seizure of my home, I called a friend of mine who's a government teacher, advanced placement, social studies, Constitution, Bill of Rights. And he'd been an employee of mine. And I said, I've never met you out of the business that I work at, but could I see you about something personal? And he says, is this a Fourth Amendment thing? I'm like, yeah, search and seizure. I'm like, whoa. He didn't know anything. That was his line of work. And so we met and talked. And he asked me, did you get an attorney? No. You better get a good one. Yeah. And he knew somebody in the state attorney general's office that gave us 3 names, and one of them wound up being a pretty good defense attorney.
But you didn't really put up a defense, did you?
No. There was an admission on my part of what I did, And basically, when the federal government comes after you, you can do one of two things. You can take them to court, and if you're charged with a couple of offenses, they're going to nail you up against the wall. This is if you really done something. Or in my case, because I really did something, I admitted what I did, and my attorney negotiated a plea deal for me, because you're going to be found guilty. There's no denying what's on your computer. And I was mad at myself and couldn't forgive myself. I was the only one that used my computer. I did it only from home. I never did it from work. I never searched for anybody, because there was a time when they were talking about 25 years. You're familiar with the Jarrett from Subway thing. Well,
That's just what I was gonna
I
bring
never
up.
went down that road. I was guilty of signing up for an illegal website, a child pornography website, and I downloaded pictures. I never searched for anybody. I never went in a chat room. I never shared emails with anybody, never shared pictures, because you go up, it's all based on drug laws. If you have a little bit of cocaine, that's possession. If you have a lot of cocaine, it's distribution. If you've got truckloads, you're producing. Each one of those comes with a different penalty, and the federal government is not light on anybody.
But you were not producing.
No.
You were not distributing.
No.
You were a simple user of child pornography.
Yeah, and I don't want to minimize my
No,
crime.
I don't either. But I also want to tell the story fairly. I think one of the things that I hope this story does for people is takes away some of the stigmas of who somebody is that watches child pornography. They're not somebody who has black curtains in the back bedroom with Polaroid cameras and scanning things and sending them all over. You never did anything like that.
No.
Yeah. All right. Bob's my special guest today. If you're watching, you'll notice that we don't put an image of him up. He's asked to stay anonymous, and his name is not really Bob. I have known him for years, and this is just one of those times. You know, you do a show called Restoring Hope about recovery. There are going to be people that say, you know, because of my family, because of people that love me, I just need to stay anonymous. Can you do that for me? And my answer is always, oh, you bet. Absolutely, you bet. Bob Montser at the Cat in the Hat is here watching the chat along with Lila, our co-host on this Labor Day Monday. We hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're not watching this or listening to this on Labor Day, you're listening to it or watching it on a podcast sometime later. We sure appreciate you taking the time to look us up. I know there's lots of choices, especially today. Oh, my gosh, I just got a new, what do you call it, internet TV? Internet plug-in TV, you know, and Netflix and everything. I just can't. But I say John Wayne into the remote, and every John Wayne movie comes up.
Cool.
Just crazy. Now, when you were growing up, did you feel like you were drawn to boys more than girls?
No, it didn't happen to me later in life that I even realized what my attraction was.
So as you're in these heterosexual relationships and you're having carnal knowledge of each other, did that feel normal or did it feel weird for you? I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know. I wouldn't think good about those things.
I go back to being in denial. You allow yourself to get away with a lot. And, you know, I guess what I would say is we all know that if you have a problem and you don't deal with the problem, it doesn't get any smaller. It doesn't go away. It gets bigger. And I can tell you in my case, you know, it landed me in federal prison. But I thought everything I was doing was right in terms of keeping me in the closet. I had this irrational belief that if anybody found out that I was gay, that they would just disassociate from me. They wouldn't have me in their lives. And the ironic thing is, and this is, you know, we'll get to the healing, I guess, but the first people I finagled a conversation about this was with my sister and her husband. One of their kids was still a minor, and I finagled a conversation in their big Sequoia, their Toyota vehicle, away from their home, and I said, you know, well, I'm gay. And my sister's like, next! And then the next thing was, well, and I've been indicted on a child pornography charge. And my sister's a huge anti-gay, anti-pornography person, not anti-gay, anti-pornography. But she wasn't all over me about this. She says, if my husband and I are in a relationship and he's spending it all with pornography, then there's something not right between us. You're not with anybody. You're viewing pornography, so it's not healthy what you did. I don't condone what you did, but...
We're going to come back. We're going to continue the story. Wait till we get to the healing part. It's Bob. It's Restoring Hope. It's Labor Day, and we thank you for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One
Restoring
Live.
hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
21 minutes after the hour on this Labor Day Monday. If you're listening to us live, we sure appreciate it. Here on The Truth, 99.3. And if you're watching or listening to this on a podcast, we thank you for taking the time to download and listen to it. My special guest today is Bob. You will not see Bob's face. Bob is not his real name. This is a program in which Bob asked to be anonymous. And I said absolutely, because he's got a story that's very important to tell. And that is how a regular boy from, are you with Midwestern?
Yeah.
Yeah, Midwestern, Wisconsin, right?
I'm a cheesehead.
Oh, yeah. Therefore the Green Bay hat on, right. Grew up not thinking you were gay, knowing you were different. Mm-hmm. But don't we all think we're different growing up?
No.
See, I always thought I was different.
No, I never did.
Are you being serious?
I'm for real. I never thought I was different.
Okay. How about you?
No, never thought I was different. Nope.
Okay, so just me. All right. Heterosexual relationships, still not realizing that he was gay. Then got into child pornography. Now, why child and not adult?
Oh, I think you got to step back, because my relationship with pornography wasn't over years. It was decades. So I had adult pornography for a long time. And if you're somebody who's, I won't use the word addicted because I've been through treatment and they don't allow you to use that word. But I think we all have our go-tos. And I would say to my go-tos, at one time I was 315 pounds. I was very happy in my career. I was miserable in person. I searched for pornography, and eventually, if you're looking for pornography, you're looking for the next best picture. And I believe that if this next picture was really good, that the next one would be better. And the internet had everything. I mean, you could search for things, you put in terms, and a lot of the sites that were gay had the word boy in them, but they were legal, 18 plus. You could look at the registration. And then there's a point where you're looking with the 18-year-old and the 19-year-old, and then there's the 18 who's really 17 or 16. Because I wasn't interested in anybody who didn't present themselves as an adult. If it was prepubescent, I wasn't interested. Doesn't matter. Federal child pornography laws, there are no consent. If you're viewing someone nude and they are underage, that is child pornography.
All right, so I want to make this clear. So the type of pornography that you were looking at were not 10-year-old boys.
No.
They were 18, 17, 19-year-old.
I would say 15, 16, but they were all post-pubescent boys. They presented as people who had gone through puberty, not people who didn't, not men who didn't. They were young males who didn't present as children per se because they had adult features. I mean, when I went to sexual offender treatment counseling, I've been diagnosed as a hebophile. That is somebody who's attracted to teens. And he said, step back, because I was trying to deal with my homosexuality. He says, step back. Let's say you're in an environment where you're teaching and you're an 11th grade, 12th grade teacher, and you're seeing girls, you're heterosexual, you're seeing girls that are 15 and 16 or 16 and 17, but they look 18, 19, and 20. It is not unnatural to be attracted to those. Now, from a standpoint of procreating, that's a prime age. So people look a certain way that, puts us in our prime. But from a standpoint of taking a picture of somebody like that and sending it across state lines, that's clearly child pornography. So the attraction isn't, because he handed me a physician's desk. It was a DSM book on mental disorders. And he told me, this person, after 18 months of counseling, said, this is what I've diagnosed you with. Now look it up. And it was the disorders, and I couldn't find it. And he goes, well, how are you spelling it? And he spelled it for me, hebophile. And then he looked at me and said, of course you're not going to find it in there. It's not a disorder. So I'm not a pedophile. I'm a hebophile. And there's a difference between the two. A true pedophile doesn't draw the distinction mostly between girls and boys. They're just interested in children. And that's not where I'm at. I'm gay. And I have a partner now who's 10 years older than I am, and I'm 55. So I am attracted to men. I don't think I ever got older up until I got my case with the federal government. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yes, that was one of the things I was going to ask you.
Yeah, it's so I think it's unfair that you're even listed as child pornography, because people they have a stereotype there. They're 7-year-old boys. They're 7-year-old girls. They're those horrible, icky cases that you hear about somebody molesting while babysitting or something like that. We just happen in this country to draw adult at 18, so if they were under 18, then it's illegal.
Right.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to ask you, though, did you act out, or was this all act out in the sense that you would go try to find a kid like this, or this was just all in a bedroom?
This is all in the privacy of my own home. They did, after they took my computer, they did extensive forensics on it. And that the FBI is not light on the tools they use. I signed up for a site. I downloaded pictures. Ultimately, when I was sentenced, the judge rolled those two together because his logic was, well, you're not going to sign up for a site and not download pictures. So it's one and the same. But they looked at the IP address. They looked at things that I had on my computer. I never emailed somebody. I never tried to chat with somebody. I never tried to pick anybody up. I just wanted to be in the closet, and my naivete, my lack of empathy caused by me being in the closet and being deep in denial caused me to go for what I wanted when I wanted it. But there was if I had gone out, because there's a time when my attorney said, well, you could be 25 years, like this Jarrett from Subway. And the very first day I sat down with my attorneys, they said, what did you do? And I said, I downloaded, I looked from my own home. Did you ever try to contact anybody? Did you just share pictures with anybody? No. He says, you're just going to have to trust me, and you're going to have to trust the process. You're going to be a felon. You're going to spend prison time, but you're not going to do 15, 20 years.
This is an eye-opener. I think there are a lot of people that this could help today.
Well, I hope so.
Because I don't know that they know that you can be in the kind of trouble you were by just being in your own home.
Well, I always am just amazed that if I'm in my backyard, tell me if this is right, but I think this is right. So I'm in my backyard, and the neighbors next door have a 15-year-old girl, a 17-year-old girl, and she's sitting out in the backyard. And if I, for some reason, were to just take a whiz outside, which I don't know, I do that. I'm a guy. I like that. If I were to do that, then I get charged with exposing myself to a minor.
That's correct.
And I am put on the sex offenders list.
That is correct.
Whoa.
If you're driving down the road with a bunch of girlfriends, remember back in, did you ever moon anybody?
No, but my friends did.
Okay. So back then, because I mooned people, and if I had mooned a minor, I would be put on the sex offenders list.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, too, that an example very similar to the one you gave when I was in sex offender treatment, the psychiatrist that was my therapist at the time talked about a guy who'd been at a golf course, left his golf cart, went into the forest to privately take a pee. There were people in the forest who were looking, saw him pee, reported him. He became a sex offender. And my counselor said, who's the person we need to worry about? The person who made an attempt to get out of the public view and take a pee, or the people, for whatever reason, who couldn't bring themselves from not looking at somebody who wanted to privately go to bathroom. Yeah. But they reported him, and he was on the sex offender registry.
Whoa. I've got to tell some people about that one.
Yeah, you better. I mean, it's and then once you're on that registry, I mean, it is the scarlet letter. I mean, I own a lot of rental property, and I have people that come to me and they say, well, are you, they call it something, are you section whatever, not section 8, but are you something? And that means that you're far enough away from any school, anything like that. Mm-hmm. Well, I have one building that is like that. And when they call, something like that's from me, because they look the address up, they know that building's safe, and they are all over me to rent to it. And that's how I learned how, and these are people just like Bob. They're regular people that made a mistake, and our government absolutely makes you pay the highest possible price, and that is time away from everybody you love and the end of your career as you know it.
I think I've stopped the car on the highway to let men or guys out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I remember the letter that you sent me, handwritten letter.
Painful.
Yeah, probably 14 pages, 11 pages, something like that. And it was the letter in which you're explaining that you were homosexual and that this is why you were in prison and all that stuff. When I read that, Bob, I was proud of you. I didn't have a negative thought in my head. I remember reading that and thinking, wow, this guy comes back to me, shares this with me, painful, as you said, handwritten every one of them. These were not photocopied. You hand wrote every one of those. And then the first time we talked, I remember thinking, man, I love this guy. If we had more guys, if we had more people in America who would step up and say, I did bad. Mm-hmm. Let me do whatever you need me to do, and then I'll move on and try to make life better for other people. Now, when you went to prison, what kind of prison did you go to?
The first prison I went to was Sandstone, Minnesota, and it's a low-security prison. My crime is considered nonviolent, and there's a series of points that they designate how dangerous you are. The more points, the more dangerous. The less points, the less dangerous. The less points, the lower security prison you go to. There were guys with 30, 40, 50 points. I went with 3. And the first act that I did when my judge allowed me to self-surrender, I get the 3 points back because that's on me to be at the prison. The federal marshal sends you a registered letter. You show up at the prison. Very awkward goodbye to my sister and her husband who dropped me off. An awkward hug outside of a prison because they couldn't go inside. My sister cried all the way back to the border 3 hours later. And so in that experience, I got to the prison and I'm on a blood thinner, anticoagulant. And the prison systems in low security places tend to be only healthy population. It took the federal government 17 months to get me to the proper facility that was considered a medical facility and where I could attend the recommended sex offender treatment program, the program that my judge wanted me to have. And here's the good thing about it. I started in Minnesota, I went to Ohio, I went to Missouri, and it finally wound up in Devens, same place that the Boston guy was, the Devens, Massachusetts. And each trip, my sister and her husband were having to travel 5 miles and then 9 miles, to Ohio, and then 11 miles to Springfield, Missouri. And when I got sent out to the East Coast, I'm thinking, well, that's it. 45 minutes away from my aunt and uncle, who are two of the most devout Christians who visited me every 2 weeks in prison, and with whom I'd already struck up a relationship as I hit prison because my aunt was worried she hadn't heard back from me. And one of the surprises about this whole thing is, you hear about the wackos on the right. I consider myself to be a conservative. And so you hear about people on the right who are willing to cast everybody into hell. And their reaction was a true filter. And who do you think they used as their filter? What would Christ do?
Yeah.
And there was immediate acceptance. Nobody condoned what I did, but they understood. They have embraced me, became two of my closest friends, still are to this day. We talk, every 3-4 weeks. They just went on a summer vacation. They know I'm here visiting family and stuff like that. And truly was opening that I would have such irrational fears and not walk to any, and I would make a judgment on people on the right saying they'd never forgive me. And these are people who said it's not our job to judge.
Bob's our guest, convicted child pornography. But I hope today you're learning what that means. And as we continue the story, more of the pain, but soon the healing, right here, live on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do. What type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
22 minutes before the top of the hour. Top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News. The stock market, did you say it closed at 600 points down? So it's lost 1,100 points in the last 2 days, and that will continue. You understand a little bit about this economy thing. Would you give me 60 seconds on, you said China has a lot to do with this?
Well, China's economy has just been roaring along, and 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it's not roaring along now. And they've been sort of propping it up, and everybody's realizing that it's slowing down, and a lot of the investments that have been made aren't being realized. And it's been the engine, part of the engine that's driving the world, and we're kind of just here. We're not doing really bad. We're not doing really good. But when you have a major driver like that that's been revved up, cooling down, financial markets don't like that.
I think it's important that we say we recorded this a week ahead of time so that people that are listening to this, not to get scared. I don't know what's going to happen in a week from now.
Yeah.
But
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because we are recording this ahead of time. We're not live on Labor Day. So that was a bad me. I actually shouldn't have said anything about that. But all right, so it is Labor Day. Isn't she smart?
Yes.
I hang around with people a lot smarter than me. Now, I know that's not hard to find, but I do hang around with people smarter than me. Even Frank is smarter than me. I mean, that's how dumb I am. Well, that didn't really sound very good, did it?
No. Is that something that Frank keeps telling you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought.
If Frank keeps telling me he's smarter than me. All right. Bob is here. It's not his real name. He asked for anonymity, and I hope you trust me. I've known Bob for a couple of decades, and he's been through an incredible thing in his life, and I've seen very few people come out so positive and so willing to accept what their actions gave them. And I don't think I've ever heard you make an excuse. I don't think I ever got a letter.
Those are the people that heal. When they admit that they've done something and that they want to change, you can heal with that.
And I think you have to accept responsibility, because until you do, you can continue, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's pornography. If you're not, the first thing I've seen in treatment is openness and honesty. And honesty begins with self. If you're not honest with yourself, you may think you're doing the right things, but you're not, because you're deluding
I think
yourself.
Sometimes that there's different parts of our personality, but there's one part of our personality where we can't see ourselves for who we really are.
It's called the blind spot.
Yeah.
You ever heard of Jacari's window?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was going to say the fourth quadrant. But anyway, the
fourth quadrant, that's right.
Sometimes we need other people to tell us what's going on.
Yeah, for those, I should bring up what we're talking about. There's something called the fourth quadrant, Jacari's box. If you take a window pane and you have 4 window panes, let's start in the upper left. This is the stuff that I say EK. Everybody knows. Mm-hmm. Then the one below is just your circle of friends know. And then the lower right one is only you know. And the upper right one is what you don't know, but it's there. And it's called the blind spot. And I've discovered a couple blind spots in my life. And it is, you have got to be in the right frame of mind when you discover that blind spot, because that could drive you backwards. Now, when you discovered your blind spot, that in fact it wasn't just you like looking at people making love on DVDs or on the internet, but you also were gay. How did that hit you? How did that hit you, that blind spot? Did you go, oh, sure, I've always known that? Or did you go, that just can't be, but all the things point to it?
Again, it's the whole denial thing. I didn't let myself believe that I was gay, and I, through 4 heterosexual relationships, tried to make myself normal. And whenever you're living a life that has you being not who you are, you're not happy. I was lonely, miserable in my, my private life. Personal life, my profession was going well and everything. And it really wasn't until the federal government knocked on my door. I'm convinced if I hadn't developed with a relationship with the federal government, I'd probably be 500 pounds instead of 315 pounds. I'd be surfing. I had addictions to food, pornography, and child pornography. And absent of anybody stepping in, I would have continued on the same path.
Now, once again, if you're just listening for now, child pornography, we're not talking about infants. We're not talking about youth. We're talking about, what'd you say, past?
I would go post-pubescent because it is youth. They're under 18 years of age. And under the age of 18, there's no such thing as consent. And so when you look at a picture, just because they're smiling and just because they're happy, what you have to remember is wherever there is child pornography, there is a victim. Okay? That victim may have been coerced with drugs. They may have been coerced with alcohol, some sort of threats against their family. Many of the victims suffer for years. Some of the victims don't make it out alive. I mean, that's part of
You're
what
talking about the guy that's in the picture.
Yeah.
The
That's
victim.
correct.
Okay.
When the INS agents told me that they knew that there were 11 images on my computer that were child pornography, I said, well, how do you know that? They go back and they research it. They go back to the source, the person who took the photos, the people who would know the children. They date the photograph, and they know how old that child was when they took the picture. Some of the children didn't make it out. Some of them survive. They think that they go through, a childhood and all that kind of stuff, and they wind up never being able to have intimate relationships because their childhood was stolen from them. Some of them make it 10, 15, 20 years later, and what's always floating around? Those pictures on the internet. So they may have somebody that comes up to them 20 years later, and every memory comes back like it was yesterday.
One of the big news stories out now is Jared. Tell me what he's done and how it's different from what you've done or what the similarities are, so people understand.
Well, I don't know everything because I haven't read it, but I've heard enough about it. I mean, he's being charged with a couple of things. One of them is possession, and another word that you hear that's a very small distinction, but it's important legally, is receipt. Receipt, which is what I was charged for, is knowingly signing up for a site. That is receipt. You're receiving. Okay, I had a financial transaction of signing up for a site.
Knowing you signed up for a pornography site or child pornography?
Child pornography.
But you didn't know it was a child pornography.
But it doesn't matter. Anytime there's a nude photograph of anybody underage.
Age 18.
Yeah. And you know what? In my heart of hearts, I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Okay.
And I was in denial.
Looking at pornography or you knew you were looking
Both.
Okay. Younger people.
Both.
All right.
And my denial allowed me to lose what I would call my sense of empathy, and I did what I wanted to do. What Jarrett did, I think, is a little bit more involved because he went to meet people. They did forensics on my computer, and I didn't try to solicit anybody. I didn't go into chat rooms, all that kind of stuff. He actively searched for people. He was asking other prostitutes if they could find 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, and that's part of his restitution to the court. Now, they're charging him the minimum could be 5 years, and he could be getting a huge sentence, but his prosecutor is arguing for 12 and a half. It's up to his judge. The judge could say, you guys, this is a bad deal. I'm going to charge him with whatever. Or the judge could go on the light end. I don't think that the judge will because he was actively seeking. And there's a difference. If you know drug laws, a small amount of cocaine would be possession. The next amount would be distribution and then production. Well, the person that Jared knew who was involved in that charity was actually photographing children. So that's production. That's a whole different charge than looking at a site. They're both bad. Wherever there's a picture, there's a victim. But your level of involvement and the level of responsibility, one of the things that Jarrett's doing is good is he is accepting responsibility.
Yeah, he's not going to fight it.
No.
Were you ever thinking about the victim when you were looking at these pictures?
No.
But you do now.
I do now. Because I unfortunately, and it's really one of the bad things, when you tell people do unto others is you'd have them do unto you, and you wind up clearly not doing that. I wouldn't let myself off the hook because when you find out that the children are abused, that they're coerced, some of them don't live through their experience, and you allowed yourself to do that because I would just say that I felt entitled. I didn't really have a sexual life because I was in the closet. I wasn't seeing other men. I wasn't attempting to see anybody. And I figured this is the least I deserve. Wrong, 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 wrong.
All right. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, what life is like now for Bob. out of prison now 3 years?
3.5.
3.5 years. Still living within the system, under the system, and what life is like now, because it's a good life in many ways. We'll be back live here on The Truth.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then the Steve Deace back live in Afternoon Drive right here in his home market on 99.3. If you just found our radio station, thank you. I hope you stick around. We are a Christian, biblical worldview, preaching, teaching, and social commentary. Social commentary is another word for conservative talk radio. And from 11 o'clock at night until 11 o'clock in the morning, some of the finest national preachers and teachers on this radio station. And I'm not just saying that. Check it out. They're some of the best in the world. And then starting at 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., we have social commentary. Myself, Steve Deace, Dr. Brown, Jay Seklow, Hank the Bible Answer Man, Steve Deace, already said him. So thanks for listening. Check us out. Don't check us out just once. You may not like my program. That's okay. You may not like Steve's. I understand. But you'll love several of them, and I hope you take the time to put it in your dial and make it something you enjoy listening to. All right, my special guest today is Bob, a closeted gay individual is the way you called yourself. You are now been out of prison 3.5 years. I'm not going to ask you this. I'm going to tell you this. You live. How do I want to put it? You pay attention to what the government's telling you now. I mean, yes. You do exactly what you said you were going to do. You know, our oldest grandson, Alex, is staying with us right now because he's a teenager and that's the way it is. And Bob was going to come stay with us for a couple days. Well, when I told him that my grandson was staying there, he said, well, I can't be there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I can't be there. Now, will that be forever?
No. It is through the time that I'm on probation. But, you know, a lot of what I do is to avoid the appearance of impropriety. And, you know, one of the things the federal government is serious about, because I'm a federal case, they are really committed to rehabilitation and they keep you honest. I mean, most felons that are prosecuted by the federal government don't undergo polygraphs. I go under the polygraph once or twice a year. It's at random. They could pull me out. So if you're being honest, then you're going to be okay. And if you're not being honest, the system's going to find you out. And the polygraphs just aren't punitive in terms of punishing you and sending you back somewhere. They deal with treatment issues, the issue that maybe is in the back of your head that you feel dark about or you're not comfortable with. What does that mean? I don't know. It doesn't mean a violation and back to prison or the halfway house. It's an issue you got to deal with. And you better deal with it now when you've got good counseling. I go to a counseling meeting every week. I have a one-on-one with my therapist every week. And it really is people who work through issues. If you have an addiction of any sort, whether it's cocaine or alcohol or whatever, and mine is pornography, if you don't deal with the reasons, and most of them don't have anything to do with sex, in my case, they have to do with being lonely, feeling like I'm getting through the midlife crisis and what would I do to have companionship, and I developed this bizarre intimacy with pornography. There is no intimacy, but guess what pornography never does? It never says no.
Yeah.
It's never rejects you. So dealing with all those issues and being honest and going to a counseling session and saying, you know what, throwing it out there.
Well, and here's the thing I've been very, very shocked by is the number of men who suffer from an addiction to pornography. It is crazy out there. It's kind of like alcoholism in a way, because a lot of times you don't see the person, drinking, and you very rarely see him drunk usually, because we're social, stay at home, get in the closet drunks. Pornography is so much the same way. I'll have a guy that joins Bible study, and the first week's good, and we're glad he's here. Second week, yeah, and then the third or fourth week, something will come up, and he said, we're feeling close to you guys, and we're iron sharpening iron. I just want to tell you that I suffer from an addiction to pornography.
My wake-up call was Pastor Mike mentioning it so many times in church. It's like, I guess this is more profound than I thought it was.
Yeah. I'm just shocked. Yeah. I mean, and the thing that surprises me is if I see a picture of a naked woman, I'm not going to say I don't look at it, but it doesn't do anything for me. My dad had Playboys, top drawer under the socks. I knew where they were. I'd look at them. Well, no big deal. Strip clubs, hated them. Friends had dragged me along, for a bachelor. What do I want to go look at that stuff for? But yet then there are other people like yourself who you might as well put a bottle of gin in front of me. Same thing, right?
Right.
So how do you deal with that in the world today? I mean, every time we turn around, there are sexual images being put on newspapers and magazines and television.
I edit. I don't watch TV. I don't have a TV. My parents actually offered as a gift for Christmas to buy me a TV and, direct TV service. I'm like, I live in a beautiful area that's in a rural area. I enjoy the countryside. I read a lot. And I self-edit. I don't get magazines that are inappropriate or even, anything beyond PG-13.
Okay.
So I've edited my world. I do a lot of reading. I don't stream on the internet. I have access to the internet. I have a third-party monitored computer. The federal government allows me to have a computer. I've earned the privilege, and they get to see every keystroke that I make, everything that I view, and I'm comfortable with that because when I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to be found out doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I think that we have a 3-second rule. If I'm looking at somebody inappropriately, it's no longer than 3 seconds, and I move on. What you have to learn is the young attraction never goes away. And I would call it, most of the time I spent in pornography was legal 18 to 24-year-old guys. But you're looking at that 18-year-old who's really 17 or 16, that's illegal. And when you have an attraction, you can't beat yourself up for being gay or having the attraction, which is normal. What you should be critical of is what you do with that attraction. Do you allow the fantasy to play out, or do you stop the picture in your mind?
We've got just about a minute left. What do you say to somebody who's listening right now who, A, has a pornography issue, or B, knows somebody that has a pornography issue?
You got to get help. And I would say that you got to trust your family. Most people, unlike the current political environment where everybody's at each other's throats, like I did with you, I wrote an honest letter. It was a painful one. If you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, most people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but you have to be honest with yourself and honest with them and then seek help, whether it's a counselor. For me, faith was a big deal in it because I happened to meet a lot of people who who use Christ as their filter, and that helped me in my journey.
Sure, absolutely. If Jesus wouldn't approve of this, why should I be looking at it?
Right.
Well, I love you. You've always been a good friend, and I'm always here for you.
Thank you, Mac.
Always
Appreciate
here
it.
for you. And what you did, I don't think what you did was bad. I'm just sorry that you were addicted to it.
Yeah. I did a bad thing, but I'm a good person.
Yes, you are. You're an excellent person. And I'm glad you're sharing yourself with the world again.
Thank you.
All right, Lila, thanks for being here. This is being taped. We're playing it back on Labor Day. I imagine you're up at the lake right now.
Yep.
Chasing down the drunks. Come in, I'm going to have an AA meeting right here in my house. Bob, thanks for having a good time. I'm sure you're out at the farm taking care of the horses. And on this Labor Day, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for you to remember that person you need to forgive. And do me a favor, and do yourself a favor tonight. Forgive them. Because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.